And then like Brandon mentioned, I also, as a salesperson, I'm super competitive. So I just want to like hit those numbers, be the best.
In this city, I mean, it's really sharky and competitive, and it is, isn't it?
If I start feeling, and that's probably been the savior of my last 2 years in this market, is not showing the stress, because we have a 6, 8, 9, and 20-year-old.
Wow.
So
you have the 20-year-old babysitting the rest of the kids,
sir.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Elite Zone. I'm your host, Max Bergstrom, and what do we do on this podcast? Well, we do a deep dive with real estate agents, lenders, marketers, and all kinds of interesting people. We like to talk about mindset. We like to talk about strategy, and we like to give you as the audience tips on how to grow your business and maximize and elevate your brand. Today, I've got two very special guests, real estate agents here in San Diego from the Vested Real Estate Group, is it?
Yes, it is.
All right, I've got Brandon and April Rampani. Sounds like Italiano.
Yep, you got it.
Wonderful. So, you guys, this is not your first time doing a podcast. I know it's not yours, right? You've done this before. You've done this before.
I have done it, yep.
Excellent. And interestingly enough, April didn't know for sure that we were going to be on a show today. So she's being a trooper, and she's going to sit here and have a good conversation. But just to get started, I mean, you guys you've imploded with children.
Yes.
You're from Seattle.
Yep.
And you've been, 13 years as an agent?
Yep.
And you were an assistant that you got started as a real estate assistant. Is that correct? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, years ago, I was an assistant, and then basically my career took a completely different turn.
Gotcha.
And after imploding with 4 children, I took a lot of time off, and then I decided I wanted to get outside the house, got my license, and then now still kind of working more in like a marketing capacity for Brandon.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Okay. That must be nice.
She comes from the background of marketing with Concur, which was a Seattle-based company. Those guys broke off from Microsoft and created kind of how to do your, expenses through your company in a more streamlined way.
Gotcha.
I would say this company probably took off, and she did too. And she was one of the first people to work from home 15 years ago when I moved her down, or our family down, to San Diego to start real estate. So it was really cool to see what the whole world is doing now with remote, right? And how, companies have gone into that world, and she was doing.
I actually started remote. I'm just kidding. Working.
Nice. You and all the Gen Zs, huh?
Yeah.
You're working.
She did have 2 dogs under her desk and
wiggling the mouse,
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I always have to blur my background on Zoom screens because I'm actually in my bed with the covers pulled up. And so I just either blur it or I make it look like I'm sitting in an office.
Yeah.
But I could not have pants on at the moment and you wouldn't even know it, right? So
different topic, different day, maybe on your podcast attire or your background attire.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but if we're talking about remote, I mean, I think that there's still some inherent value in having an office and going into that setting, because I remember when I would wake up and dress the occasion, it's kind of like putting on a uniform.
It is.
And then it 100%. Syncs up with your mental, you're like, okay, I'm in the zone, I'm getting ready to work, as opposed to just rolling over, grabbing your computer, opening it. You know what I mean?
You couldn't have set me up perfectly for this, because I called my company Vested.
Yeah.
Which is a play on word, obviously.
Right.
Invest in their future. And at the same time, it's the obvious of wearing a vest. So you can imagine every day I wake up and I go, can I wear a polo today in front of my clients?
Right.
It's no, you got to wear the vest, bro. You called your company Vested. So I'm a huge believer in how you look is how you play. It's what my mom taught me. It really was a real big thing watching her in the corporate world.
Yeah.
To work every day.
Yep.
Now she's remote, and we know what that's done, as far as the type of getting on and going out and doing a job. But being a real estate agent, it's 7 days a week, bro. So you could be putting on this suit 7 days a week,
right,
in 103-degree temperatures.
Exactly.
I don't sacrifice for that, but I do think, working remote versus working in something and being a part of something, which is that feeling of walking into an office, is special. When she pulled away from the office, I definitely saw that change and like that dynamic from working with some of those people. She didn't know how well the competition was really going on in her sales position when she was working from home, but I do need to say she crushed it at home. Not seeing that, she dominated, which is why I think she's a great operations or person involved in the marketing of my company, because she's got a competitive edge and she's kind of edgy when it comes to marketing. She knows things that do well. We aligned with Compass, which has been a great transition.
Yep.
I came from the training world of Keller Williams, and I really drank that juice. That's what they call it over there, because you've really got to be motivated to sell real estate. And no one better than Gary Keller to motivate you, but he really tried to transition Keller Williams to a tech company.
Sure.
And it crashed.
It didn't work.
It did not work. And so aligning with Robert Refkin at Compass, April kind of motivated me to go down that direction because she saw the edge in their marketing. They've got things behind the scenes in their CRM or their database that's allowing us to be more efficient with our clients. The key for me this year is adding more to that database, because that database does such a great job of keeping me honest and keeping me forward looking with that.
Love that.
And she's the one that has to show that to the rest of my clients when I see it from behind the scenes. So to have that behind the scenes edge and perfection and do a topical, which is me out in the field being edgy and efficient and perfect, it really does create a dynamic team.
I believe it.
I didn't mean to say perfect.
You said perfect.
I ran out of words.
You're just, he's on one. Yeah, I'm like, you're just going.
All right. So, I think I want to ask April a few questions here. Tell me a little bit about your marketing background and how has that given you an edge with real estate? Because, like personally myself, I work in marketing. I have a real estate license as well. It just turned out I wasn't a very good agent. But I think that, if you have both skill sets, you can see things perhaps that a salesperson may not. So tell me a little bit about that. What did you do before, and how is this kind of giving you, more tools and systems and things like that to use to gain an edge?
So basically, when Brandon mentioned Concur, which is where I started in marketing, I feel like I should back up. Even before that, I was working more in interior design. So
Gotcha.
I've worn a few different hats, but somehow they all have kind of worked together. So working in interior design, I had just like a lot of experience in the housing industry, right?
Sure.
Seeing what's looking good, what people want, whatever, that kind of just more of an interior aspect. Then I went, when we did relocate to Seattle, I got a job with a tech company, and we were selling, like he said, the expense reports, but it was business to business. And I was reaching out to CFOs, CEOs, pretty much anybody at the C level, and trying to get them to invest in a pretty expensive product, which would, streamline their expense reporting. It was all done through an app. That was really new 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? To try to get somebody to invest potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in something that was going to be just technology driven,
Right.
saving time.
Right.
So by doing that, I feel like by reaching out to the C levels, trying to get their attention different ways, I learned to just be really quick, to the point, precise, but also give them something to kind of entice them and make them want more. And then like Brandon mentioned, I also, as a salesperson, I'm super competitive. So I just want to like hit those numbers, be the best. Like,
so do you push him to,
Absolutely.
I mean, he when he says that he's out there being edgy, like the energy off of this guy, like he's one of those guys that comes into a room and just kind of everybody's oh, he's here. You know what I mean? Like I kind of get that vibe a little bit from you, which is good. I mean, you definitely need that, especially in this city. I mean, it's really sharky and competitive, and it is, isn't it?
It's very LA now compared to when I first got down here. It was a little bit more passive. I call it the blue jean agent that could wear blue jeans and a Jimmy Buffett shirt and sell a house.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of wanted to have the more formal.
Right.
Just felt more laid back.
Sure.
Now that the agency, the Oppenheimer Group, you're seeing that LA trend start to come down here to sell our real estate. And it's bringing a different edge. It's bringing the fancier cars, the colorful cars.
Yeah.
You see that out there now.
Yeah.
And it's also bringing back the, how would I say this in a professional way? The agent that showcases very well these luxury listings.
Yep.
Right. They're putting the right person at these open houses. And there's a few teams down here that...
Are you saying beautiful people?
No, yeah. I just think, the crystals in the front door, just letting people come in and do that. So
yep.
I've really seen that edge start to come back here or come into this community a little bit more. So having April that does have the push for me out there, it helps.
Nice.
Something like this where we come down to Mission Valley to do the podcast, I've got 3 or 4 appointments that are backed up to this because I've got her out. Like I want her to go see those projects that I'm working on. So it really kind of motivates me to get back to your thing, getting into the workload.
Right.
So she's a huge pusher.
So that is that. I mean, it's interesting that you talk about how you dress because I think that that's really, really important. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Jordan Belfort, right? Mm-hmm. Wolf of Wall Street. So on one of his podcasts or whatever, this kind of deal was brought up. Like, should you be clean shaven? Should you, dress nicely in a suit, XYZ? And what he said, I thought was brilliant, is you want to dress to match who you're trying to sell to. So, for example, if I'm a coastal agent in a beach community, I'm probably not going to show up in a suit. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to show up just dressed a little bit nicer than my client is, right? Maybe like khaki shorts, a polo shirt, maybe even flip-flops, who knows, right? But if it's beachy, so like, if I go to a Harley store, I don't want to buy a Harley from a guy dressed in a suit. I'm going to want to buy a Harley from a guy who looks like a biker with a beard. Right. But if I'm getting sold insurance and the guy shows up in a leather jacket and a beard, I'm probably going to be like, I don't know, shouldn't you be, look a little bit different, So there's psychological cues. So the reason I asked that is, are you guys aiming for luxury real estate? Is that like your niche?
I'm going to let you go with that one. I've got my answer, and it might take...
That is the goal for me long term. It's not our niche right now at all. And so as far as like the brand, it's really funny. I actually look at it more like as far as Brandon and his attire. We're old school. Like we were raised by really hardworking parents. Yep. They pretty much didn't come from much or anything, right?
Right.
And so they all worked their way up a corporate ladder. And then in both of our cases, both of our parents ended up becoming entrepreneurs, even though it was somewhat short-lived.
Okay.
But it was something that, like I said, just kind of coming from nothing, working their way up, and then just really instilling work ethic in us. So it's always putting your best foot forward.
Yeah.
It's always dressing for the job you want, not the job you have.
Right.
Like
you can't be overdressed. I mean, that's my dad was a lawyer, and then he became a judge. So this guy, like every day, he had a suit on every single day, and he used to say that. He's like, there's really no such thing as being overdressed. Nobody's going to tell you, you look too nice. We don't think you're qualified, right? And so when I'm from Minnesota. So back in Minnesota, like I would never go to a job interview like this. I wore straight up suits. When I moved out here, I showed up to my first job interview in a suit, and the CEO who was doing the interview looked like me. And he was like, dude, like, just to let you know, bro, like, you don't have to dress like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So it is, it's interesting to me, but the whole like wearing a suit, getting into the mindset of it's work time now, that was taught to me by one of my former bosses. And this guy, he said the same thing. He's like, dude, I don't give a shit if everybody else is, dressing for comfort and talking about authenticity. Like, that's great. He's like, this is authentic to me. This is how I do it. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So this is you are authentic to you. Exactly. Yeah. And that's important, right? Because if you're inauthentic, eventually people are going to, like, I feel like
social media, they know when you're inauthentic, right? So it's an instant tattletale.
Right.
I think when I do show up to clients' houses or to I'm a buyer's agent at heart. Mm-hmm. So like I started off showing homes. So when you're with your client and they're in your car or they're walking around with you, this suit makes them think initially yeah, this guy's good. This guy's credible.
Yep.
Right. So that at least lowers that bar.
Absolutely.
Second one I'm working on now is he too pompous? Is he a narcissistic agent? Sure. Someone that won't get dirty.
Right.
So within 2 showings of that buyer that may have that thought, and they'll show that, trust me, how's the roof? Like, I'll get on the roof. Like, I will get in the crawl space. And I'll film it.
Yep.
So they're like, why is this guy filming? He's crazy. He's getting his shoes dirty. And so they see that I'm actually someone that's willing to get into the trenches. I think that's the prior military in me. So when you said the uniform thing, it's to make your bed, to get a dress, it's in me naturally. So it's like a breath.
Yep.
So now I've got to just kind of lower the guard of what the suit can do to some people that do feel either threatened, intimidated, I'm underdressed. You absolutely right. And so if I stay with that same theme that is just constant to me and being pushed by my wife, it's just going to create momentum.
Yep.
It really does.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of transactions compared to 2 years ago. And so when you're this motivated by momentum and being authentic, sometimes that doesn't come with a reward.
No, not always.
And you got to really stay a positive source in that, because if you turn that negative, you won't wear the suit. You won't go to the next appointment, right? So really the mindset these last 2 years has transformed me to a better person, a better agent. Not only am I lowering guards, I'm showing credibility, but I'm also understanding that this home might not be the one this year. It might take a year with them, right, to keep it going. So there's a patience. There's an aggression, patiently aggressive. I love saying that.
Ooh, that's good.
It is.
Is that his or is that yours?
I feel like that one's yours.
Yeah.
Patiently aggressive. That's good.
Because you have to show that you're not a car salesman that needs the deal at the end of the month.
No, because neediness comes off as desperate.
Especially in these times.
Absolutely.
When they know transactions.
People are scared to spend money right now.
100%.
You know,
I feel it.
Even businesses. Yep. You know, I lost a ton of revenue in my business because a lot of agents that were my clients that I was marketing for, half of them quit. Some of them were like, I can't afford this anymore. What can you do for $300? And pretty much my answer there is very little.
It's exactly right.
You know what I mean?
To dilute your value or your profit.
Yeah. Which I'm more comfortable saying, look, I totally get it. Let me connect you with somebody who I think can actually help you. But, people are scared to spend money in the economy, and it's, hopefully it'll come back around eventually.
And bro, we can feel it in the house purchase, because that is the largest purchase per se in a person's past.
Yeah, people are scared to buy eggs.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? How do you think we've been doing, with houses?
Eggs at Costco yesterday.
Yeah, $7 for a carton of eggs, $8 for a box of cereal. I mean, it's crazy. And if I got my kid with me, I a million things just show up in the cart that I didn't actually have on the list,
Yeah.
So definitely,
kids will be kids.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you guys work together and you're married?
Yeah.
So how do you balance, what's that like? You must have a really strong relationship, because if you're around each other, for me, my current girlfriend, I can spend all day with her and I don't get sick of her, right? And that, that's love right there, right? Because eventually, every couple has, things that start to get on your nerves or just little things, and that's all normal. But you work together, you parent together, you seem like you're really cohesive and really strong. So how do you manage your busy life and working together? How do you get this done? And I think this would be really valuable for other agents to hear, and not only ones that have their significant other, husband, wife, or whatever in a partnership, but just for a marriage in general, right? Because you're going to be spending time around one another and dealing with the stresses. So do you guys feel like it's brought you closer and it's better, or what? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's taken us a really long time. We've been together for 15 years. And we have worked together, aside from when we had really small kids, but we met at work, essentially. So we have worked together for a long time, and we have it's been a roller coaster. So we've had some pretty explosive, just high emotion type. We can be very alike and very different.
Sure.
Crazy. So he's very macro. I'm super micro.
Got it.
But after 15 years, I think we have both gotten so much better at just knowing ourselves and what's triggering us, as well as where that person's coming from, right? So he doesn't tell me when he is super stressed out. So in this market, is as terrible and difficult and, you know, all these things that we've gone through for the last 2.5 years, he won't really talk about it. He doesn't show it. He just keeps doing.
It's a masculine trait.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. You know, I mean, it's, you just kind of like, you know, admirable. Whatever. I mean, I would like my dad went to Vietnam when he was like 17.
Okay.
And I remember like, I would be like, you know, so-and-so happened and I'm angry about it. He'd be like, dude, you have no problem. There's like, just, which is valuable, but also on the other hand, you know, I tend to be a little bit on the sensitive side too.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, you know, I'm just looking for a little bit of empathy or stuff like that. And I believe that you're macro. So talking about that, let's talk when things do not go right.
Yep.
How do you, with that sort of mindset, like how do you overcome that adversity, especially in this market with the NAR settlement, with all of the, you know, I mean, there's just so much panic and fear and anger going on out there.
Yep. To answer your question, there's 3 things that I do to come back. I call it recalibration.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to recalibrate when things aren't going your way.
Okay.
Things aren't going as expected for what you created in your or manifested.
Sure.
One of them that I do that's super easy for me is that I always try to go back to balance. If this is off kilter here at the workspace or me and the wife or something, the beautiful thing about being a father is that you have your children there that are leaning on you. So children for me is huge. If I start feeling, and that's probably been the savior of my last 2 years in this market, is not showing the stress because we have a 6, 8, 9, and 20-year-old.
Wow.
So
you have the 20-year-old babysitting the rest
you
of
would
the
hope,
kids.
sir. You would. It started that way, but we've realized that she's got her own emotions and her own feng shui that we need to stay conscious of.
Absolutely.
And we want her to grow and manifest herself like we did with our parents.
Yep.
We broke off and did jobs and went to school. But the thing that the kids have done for me is really calibrated me to a balance level, and balance for me takes away guilt. So when you're a Disneyland dad and you're working,
that's huge.
You got to get the guilt of not being a dad or not being a husband or not being an agent to your client. You got to get that away, and I think balance sometimes helps.
That probably helps you perform better.
It does. It
once
really
you get rid of the negativity and the guilt and things like that.
Second thing for me is that my body eats stress. So like if I don't show it or say it or have a reaction on like something's not, my weight starts to really drop. Like significantly. 5 to 8 pounds in 2 or 3 days is not uncommon in my household. And my wife starts to see that I'm not eating, and that really does create more stress because your body just can't function stress without that nutrient.
For sure.
So obviously nutrition is huge in our house. Huge, actually. Yeah. Sugar count, grams of sugar.
Yep.
We've learned that at a young age, sugar can create weirdness in kids, or not if it's not managed.
Yep.
And my third thing is that me and my wife have an amazing ability that if things are stressful, is to try to find small wins.
Man, that is right there what you just said. Like that is the biggest thing.
Small wins.
You know, because if, you know, everything as a human, we tend, you know, our brain loves problems. So like if there's 10 people and 9 of them say terrible things about me, but one of them's like, dude, you're the best. I'm gonna be like, yeah, but that doesn't really matter. All these other people said all this stuff about me.
So true.
You know what I mean? Yep. So if you can be like, well, you know, like I've been sober for a long time.
That's great. 12
years almost now. And thank you. And, you know, like I remember I'd call my sponsor and I'd be like, this person is treating me this way at work, and you know, so and so happened, and this happened, and that happened, and this, you know, and he'd be like, okay, well, you know, is anybody coming to lock you up? I'd be like, no. He goes, is anybody coming to kill you? I said, no. He goes, what's wrong right now? Like not tomorrow, not in 3 hours, not yesterday, but literally in this moment, what's wrong? And I'd be like, well, I mean, I guess nothing. And he goes, okay, so start there. Like nothing's wrong right now. Now, you can't cope with the mental phantom of a problem that you make in the future. And I've come to learn through experience that about 97% of the catastrophizing, the things that I think are going to happen with business, with family, with other people, none of that never really does. And when it does, the 3% of the time, I'm usually able to handle it. Right? So the small wins, if you can't even get a small win, then how are you going to get to the okay, well, maybe this is okay, so maybe that will be okay. And then kind of like bring it up the ladder.
I love that. What's the part of the brain that works with graciousness and fear? Because I think
when we say like you can't, with anxiety, that you can't be grateful and anxious at the same time.
No. Yeah.
Right? So that's something that we use to reset.
Exactly.
Grateful of the small wins.
You start there so you feel better. And that's where, I'm big into spirituality and the law of attraction and things like that. And, we've got it backwards. When I think like,
don't get her started.
If I get this, then I'll be, if I can make $250K this year, then I'll be okay.
Right.
But instead I have to, one, be grateful for what I have. I live in Southern California. I've got a 6-figure business. I've got a healthy kid. I've got talents, all of that. And then if I can feel the emotions of what it would feel like to have what I wanted, then the universe delivers it. But when you're anxious all the time, that's really hard. Like when somebody tells me when I'm angry, like, dude, just like feel what it would feel like to, I'm like, how right now?
Yeah.
So how do you get, when you're anxious and like you're in the shit, right?
Yeah.
How do you stop that and reset and
it's
shift?
crazy, actually, because that's what you just described is who I am through and through. Like that's like
me too. I'm wound tight, baby, tight.
So I feel very thankful because what I do is I lean on Brandon. I really do, and it sounds crazy, but for so long and so many years and so many different times in our life where the sky was falling and everything was going to just go away as we knew it. It always had a way of actually working itself out. And he's the one that doesn't show that stress. He's the one. So like, for example, when COVID hit and I'm like, that's it, let's sell everything. I was ready to sell the house. I was ready to get out of here. I was going to go buy a smaller, cheaper house in Idaho, be close to my family.
Yep.
And we were just going to lose everything together.
Yep.
And we're just going to lean on each other,
Yep.
And he didn't allow me to do any of those things. Thank God. And so he wrote it all out on the dry erase board in our living room of like all the different, the investments that we have. Yes, the market could fail us, but what if it didn't? And it didn't.
It didn't.
And so we took that chance and we had a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And, I basically let him run with it because I do acknowledge I'm the anxious one. I do acknowledge I'm the micro one.
Awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. And we went with his plan and it's like, oh my gosh, we benefited immensely during 2020, 2021.
For sure.
A beautiful thing. And we got to experience the success that we had always hoped and dreamed of, but then it also kind of came out from under us pretty quickly as well.
Yep.
So it keeps you humble and it also keeps you, I think for us, it keeps us motivated, it keeps us excited, but we can kind of see the difference. And at this point, I am just thankful that we're in a position to continue to get through this market until it improves and we start to reap the benefits of the things that we're sowing right now.
Right.
I want to commend you on your sobriety. I think first and foremost, anytime you pass a year in sobriety, it's a huge thing. To hit 10 years means it's understood in your brain.
Yep.
And to hit 13 now, you've now taken this as probably the path that you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so.
Like, I'll probably retire when I'm 20. I've already been at 13.
Yep.
You're right. You might as well just keep going. So I think it's admirable about you. I would always look to that as a win.
Sure. No, that's the biggest win. So when things come up, I mean, I used to, I wasn't like, well, like I've talked to people who drink and do drugs before. Yeah. And I've been like, they're like, yeah, I quit, man. I just couldn't do it. I'm like, well, what happened? And they're like, yeah, like one day I yelled at my wife. And after that, I was like, oh my God, like this is a big problem. Yeah. They're like, what about you? And I'm like, oh, well, I used to black out and wake up in different states and I was in mental institutions. And they're like,
sorry to laugh,
man. No, I laugh about it now too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh my God, like your lows are you really have a problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's, the lows are a little different. Yeah. But for a guy that couldn't go 20 minutes without having a drink to stringing together 12 years, it is a miracle. And guess what? Like I didn't really do anything besides try to stay out of my own life as much as possible. Yep. And I'm gonna be like, if anybody can screw up a situation that's having to do with me, it's me, right? So if I get too involved, if I get too involved in it, if I get too wrapped around the axle about a problem, then I will literally think myself into making the problem worse. Yep. Whereas some people, when they're, more analytical and they can just handle that, that's great. My hat's off to you. But I just can't. So I just, eventually I'll be like, oh man, I'm doing it again. And like business is the biggest trigger for me because like I want to be able to preside, protect the people I love. And like, I want to build a legacy. You don't do something and throw your all into it just to kind of like half-ass it. And with your energy level, and you guys, you're definitely not half-assing your careers here, right? You're top 5% in San Diego. You guys have made it through a lot.
We have.
And, we just talked about authenticity, anxiety, all that stuff, and humble. Like humility, people misunderstand humility. They think that it means like being embarrassed. Humility comes from the Latin humus, which is of the earth, right?
Wow.
So,
grounded.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Like, I'm not better than anybody else. And like nowadays, I think with the transparency we have on social media and all that, that's important. Right. But I want to talk about marketing. So how do you guys market your business? What is working? Because, there's so much competition. There's so many different, you can do email, you can do social, you can do video, you can do phone calls, you can door knock, you can send direct mail, you can do all of the above. Like, what have you guys found? And this is for the agent audience that we have that's like working well for you.
April brought this up before we parked of like, where are we going in the future with our marketing? Because we are seeing that it's becoming a lot more automated.
Yeah.
Driven by artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Which can be a good thing.
Yep.
Right. And at the same time, 19,000 agents in San Diego County. So we've got a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And what I love about being an agent is that if you do a transaction or a closing professionally with the best interest of the client, they remember that. The key is how do you go back to that client to keep trying to tell them that you're an agent, that you still care about them.
Yep.
You're all things house. That's one of my things. Like, if the water heater breaks, you're calling me.
Sure.
Not your plumber.
Right.
And I try to establish that because I want to be interconnected so much with that house and with their family and the nuances of that house.
Yeah.
That I tend to end up getting a ton of credits from my client in the escrow when the guard is down.
Ooh.
So not at the beginning. It's about 2 weeks into it. And that money that we get in those credits really does kind of warm my client that I'm caring about their future, because those credits are going to be used for something in the future, the fridge, the repair.
Yep.
And so that really does kind of blanket them a little bit more, that I don't have to be as 5 touches a year, right? I don't have to go to them as much because of how I handled the actual transaction professionally and right.
So kind of like going an inch wide, but a mile deep.
Oh my gosh.
With every
100%.
person, right? So like, it's not even a question in their mind after the transaction's done. If somebody's like, I'm looking for an agent, but, oh, Brandon, my guy, you got to talk to him. He helped me do X, Y, and Z, made me feel this way.
It was hard for April when she came into the business a few months ago, because she always thinks my clients will use someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about her. She's a marketer. She always wants to see it.
Well, the average consumer knows 12 real estate agents.
Yep.
So, if you're like, oh, well, I'm in, oh, yeah, but so is my brother, so is my cousin, so is my ex-wife, so is my, they know, but so like the differentiator is how do you, anybody can email market, anybody can do something, but how do you make people feel? Right?
Yeah. I said, the way I did that transaction, I really don't think they're going to use one of those 12 other agents.
Yep.
And so when she came into the business and really saw the database and how much contact I actually do behind the scenes with those people about their water heater breaking, she was amazed to see the loyalty. We had a nice little boat party a couple weeks ago and invited the whole database.
I love that.
Like 90% showed up.
That's crazy. A client appreciation event where 90% of your clientele shows up. That's a huge win.
And that's a win for her, because she's been able to stay in front of those 2-year, people the last 2 years and show that we have not gone away. We're not one of those 12 that 7 of those 12 have gone away.
Sure.
1 foot in the business, 1 foot in their other business.
Right. Which you can't really do as an agent anyways, right?
Oh my gosh, no.
That was my downfall. I had a 60-hour-a-week business development job, and I was trying to like part-time as an agent, and eventually people were like, dude, you got to save up 6 months of finances and quit your other job, or you might as well just go into something else.
You got to jump. And that's the hardest thing for agents, is that 3 or 6 months of the first jump.
And so many people, I think, don't understand the difference between the 12 agents that they know and an agent who's been doing it for 12 plus years
100%.
consistently, full time. One of the things that like so many people at this last client appreciation event say, and they say this to me all the time. You know what's so great about Brandon? He talks you out of buying the house, not talks you into buying the house. And for me as a salesperson, I'm like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to talk to him about that later. Wow. But they all say it. Right. Everybody says the same thing because he will walk into a house and he'll say, you don't want this house. Look at that roof. Look at the ceiling right there. You can tell that they had a flood. Oops. You can tell that they had a flood and they didn't disclose it, or whatever it is when they're doing the home inspection and he's seeing things. Oh, this is, the way that the water's traveling outside the property and it's causing your foundation to crack. And this is, so all of these things, he points those out. And when you finally get to the house that doesn't have all the issues,
it's just like, this is the one. Look, check this place out for sure.
Didn't
right. Well, you shouldn't anyways, right? Because people don't want to be sold.
Right.
The second I feel like somebody is trying to sell me something, you already have resistance. And by the way, there's a great book by Robert Cialdini called Persuasion. I don't know if you guys have read that before, but there's 7 principles of persuasion, and one of them is reciprocity, which is if you deliver value to somebody for free, they're going to be more inclined to return the favor, right? So you're like, I can handle X, Y, and Z. I'm noticing all of this stuff. I'm consulting you. You're giving them so much upfront value that when the time comes, when they either do want to buy or sell, or when you do find the right house, they're going to be like, dang, like this guy has given me so much. Like I'm definitely going to, list with you or have you represent me as a buyer, but I'm also going to tell my friends and family who may need the same thing because of the experience that I had. Right?
It's the experience. That's what I meant, the transaction. It's actually the true experience that a client goes through with me, that they'll finally see that the suit is the uniform.
Yep.
It's not the show.
Right.
And so I think that's important for people to see that. It's taking longer for me to get that with people these days.
Sure.
And I don't blame myself for that. I blame all the external components for that they come in with an anxiousness or a fear or a hesitation.
Yeah, because, of past prior experiences and things like that, of course, you still judge a book by its cover. Maybe someday the world won't be like that. But one of the guys in my band, big long beard, big gauged earrings and stuff, and he had to go into court for just a minor issue, and I'm like, okay, well, do you have a suit? And he's like, oh no. And I'm like, okay, you got to buy a suit, and then you're not going to wear the earrings, right? He's like, well, should I not? I go, no, don't do that. And also shave. And he's like, it took me so long to grow. I don't give a shit. Shave it all the way down. When you go in there, you don't want to look left of center. Even if it's cool. Right. I get it. Like, look at me. I got jewelry and tattoos and all that stuff, but it makes a difference. It really does. And especially if you have high-end clientele, immediately they're gonna size you up right away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just a fact of it.
I still think the coastal agent shouldn't wear coastal clothing. It's just that's the one product that, yes, if you were selling coastal jewelry or coastal conch shells or coastal food, maybe you can't. But when you're selling the highest priced thing on that coast,
sure,
you still got to walk the walk. I hate to say it, but and kudos to those that can wear.
That's what I was going to say, though, is that's specific to you, and that's why it is authentic to you, is because you feel that way, and that's why it works for you. But, I think people can do what they want. They can wear what they want. If it's working for them, great. That's like, you know what I mean? But I just think it's funny that you said that because I'm like, that's just so true and transparent to who you are.
A lot of the things that I'm defending today, guys, aren't actually how I feel or how they're feeling about me. It's actually defending or trying to see if this client is spam, if it's a true buyer, if they're buying this year.
Yeah, a looky-loo.
Oh, my gosh. That's been the hardest aspect the last 2 is we have got, can we take this conversation to WhatsApp? And then I know that's fraud, and they've got me for 2 days talking to them, and I almost was there, and it's becoming a different type of world. We're seeing a different buyer come into San Diego County. I used to show, husband, wife, and 3 kids the house, and now I'm showing the wife. Then she'll go tell the husband. Then the husband can try to leave work to go see the house. It's just a different experience.
Yeah, well, you kind of sell to if it's a husband and a wife, you kind of sell to the wife anyway.
That's pretty much
most of the time. because like as a guy, it's like, well, yeah, it looks cool as long as I have like a den that I can put my stuff in, I'm all good.
Yeah, let's go look at the.
But the wife might be like, I love this specific kind of chandelier, and you know what I mean? Like I need a gazebo. If it's not a gazebo in the backyard, no, you know what I mean? And so
my last client was the elevator, and I went, San Diego, an elevator? That's
right.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because when you walk into that showing with the husband and wife guys, and the wife goes left, and you're the agent, and the husband goes right.
What do you do there?
What do you do?
What do you do?
Personally, I really like to see. I typically split the difference. So I'll walk into a room where they're not. I'll start talking out loud.
Yeah, that's smart.
So either the wife or the husband's going to say, "Were you saying something?" Because they've already left the showing and gone somewhere else. It just brings them back to caliber.
Yeah,
which I try to get them to walk through a home like their guests would, not how you would as a husband walking into your house and going straight to the garage or straight to the master upstairs or primary. Sorry, that's not really, we got to calibrate. Get back to the living room, the kitchen. Let's go outside from here. And by then I've already expressed, it's weird, man. When I walk into the house, remember that movie with Crow? Where he's just like looking at things with a beautiful mind or whatever, Russell?
Yeah, doing the whole, I mean, you know what? We're going to get some graphics up for the episode when you're doing that.
Yeah.
It's going to be going all around.
That's what happens when I walk into a home it's negative, though. It's all these voices of like previous flood. Why is that baseboard different than the upstairs baseboard? My mind just starts to go, but I got to smile. The husband and the wife split the room, so now I got to calibrate them. And so by the time that I've gotten them back to the back of the house to look at it, I can say the house has had a previous flood. I just want you guys to know that. So I'm going to stay conscious of that upstairs and see where that flood source started.
Yeah.
I will make sure that this was disclosed by the seller. So I'm kind of giving them the credibility.
Sure.
I'm walking them out of the deals, not pushing them, but at the same time, I'm protecting them with the disclosure comment. So I hit all those three trust things in one comment, and it's unfortunately or fortunately, it's natural.
Sure. Well, it's your thoroughness, right? And that's a military thing too. One of the guys, I used to have a good friend that was the bass player in my band, and he was a Marine. And when I would talk to him, I'd be like, "Hey man, what did you do today?" He'd be like, "At 7:19, I woke up, and then I took 10 steps into my kitchen, and then I moved. The sundial was approximate. Like everything was so detailed."
Yep.
Right. And like, in regular conversation, that could be construed as like, man, what's going on with this person? But when you are trying to care and take care of somebody and disclose things and explain things that are possibly the biggest purchase of a lifetime, that's really important. Because if you went in there and you were like, all right, take a look around, and then you're on your phone, you're making calls and you're like, so what'd you think? You know what I mean?
You writing this one up?
Right, exactly.
This won't last long.
Yep.
That's my favorite.
Any questions?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like the open house that you go to, and it's just a wave, and then like you never see anybody, nobody comes up to you, and then it's just like, do you have any questions that I can help you with? It's so the experience.
Yeah.
So when they leave the experience with you, you're making sure that you've done such a thorough job of making them feel cared for.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So listen, I want to thank both of you guys for coming on the show.
And I love this.
Yeah, I think I'd love to do this again because, I want to just learn more about your saga. Maybe talk a little bit more about kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, right now the market is how it is. If we get some shifts and things like that, it'd be interesting to, just dive back in a little bit with you guys. So we'll definitely have you on again if you're into that. And then, what I want to hear is 3 tips from you, sir, and 3 tips from you for, agents that are watching, how to elevate their business. How do they get to the next level? Or what would you go back and tell yourself 10 years ago when you were first getting started?
I believe you, my lady.
Go for it.
I would say first thing that comes to mind is just identify what's working and what's not. And I think that's what we kind of always come back to because you mentioned earlier that we went to Compass about a year ago. And what we found prior to Compass is that we were in an office that just wasn't motivating. The group wasn't motivating. It was kind of like, I don't know, there weren't a lot of people in there on a consistent basis. The decor was old, and you could just really tell there was this sense of like, we're not changing anything. We don't have the money to invest in this. In fact, you know, company parties became potlucks. Like everybody pitch in, and like you just felt it.
Yeah.
And when your business is hurting and interest rates are high, it just was not motivating. So we went with a company that was much more appealing. It had a sexy brand. It had a luxury vibe.
Yep.
Sales manager is incredible. She's knowledgeable. She's smart. The meetings are, you know, they cater them, which is nice. But also,
oh, hell yeah. That's important, right?
Yeah. But the people that they bring in are bringing value. They're smart people, and you leave there with more. Anyway, the whole thing. And then they actually offered additional services that we weren't even aware of that have been really, really important to growing our business. And so
what you're trying to tell me is I should have had like a whole table full of food. Yeah, like
shoot, like when we come next week.
I don't actually eat the food, but like I don't want to be worried about putting together a tray before I come this week.
Listen, I 100 I 100% agree. It's about having an experience, right? If you want your agents to drive and push the ball, having a potluck and saying, hey, can you make something and bring it in?
Right.
You know, that it kind of sends a message, right? As opposed to just show up and it's, you know, a catered luxury event where you're really showing them, hey, we're invested in you. Right?
100%.
So that's great.
We pass that on to our clients, right? So then we take that mentality when we're doing an open house, when we're meeting with a client or we have a closing, we want them to have that same feeling of, you know, elevation.
I don't care what you think about the house. Just come have some steak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody get over here, you know? Yeah. I love that. That's great.
So kind of increasing the brand a little bit, getting away from the old that was kind of bringing us down.
Right. Or like I said, just identifying what's not working for you. Because at that time in our business, we were not feeling like, let's get up early and like really go, you know, get in there. And that wasn't fair. We have that drive now. We evaluated and we pivoted.
Sure.
I've only got two.
Go for it.
If I were myself 10 years ago, there's a difference. There's two types of agents. There's the I have to and the I want to. And if you're waking up in the morning and you say you have to go to showings or I have to do this open house, right? It comes with it, the attitude that comes with have to instead of wanting to. So that's the athlete is you got to have want to.
Yeah. Or you might want to rethink what you're doing.
And then,
right?
Honestly, are you the type of agent that's going to want to face see 100 people at an open house and try to grab all of their names and do all of that? Or are you an agent that wants to do it automated from behind the scenes to find those leads?
Mm-hmm.
So are you a topical or are you a behind the scenes agent?
Right.
If you try to do both, which is what I did, I tried to be at the open house and I tried to get the 100 internet leads and then see which one sticks. And then when they both stuck, I just kept doing both. I didn't put all the names that didn't buy. This kills my wife. I didn't put all the names that didn't buy with me in my database. So I only put the names that were like, we're going to buy with you. We're going to buy with you. We're going to buy with you. And so those names got to like 100 and then 200 and then 300. But the 1,000, and so today, every
as a marketer, that bothers me too, man.
My biggest.
I get it. Yeah, for sure.
But just look for all those out there that haven't gotten all the names. I didn't either for 10 years, and I still get all my business from referral.
There you go. So you can do it, right?
Still do it if you've done it wrong.
Yeah.
So that's my other thing: is that try to figure what lane you are as an agent. Are you a behind the scenes call? How did you get my phone number? Or I remember you from the open house.
Yes.
Which agent are you?
Yes.
Shine that.
So play into your strengths.
Yeah, so you got to play it.
Don't try to do everything. Because then you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff half-assed and burn yourself
out. Or
full
ass, like I did.
Or full ass and burn yourself
Exactly what I did.
Sure.
Yep.
Got it. Man, well, that's a lot of wisdom. You guys heard it from Brandon and April right here. Where can people get a hold of you? How can they get in touch with you? We're going to drop some links in the description so you guys can see that. But tell us, how do people get a hold of you? Where can we check you out?
I think this was the easiest thing for me when I changed my name to Vested Realtor Group, is that we are the Vested Realtor Group. Literally the Vested Realtor Group. And then behind that, we're obviously a team of husband and wife, the Rampani. So best through phone, best through Instagram. It doesn't matter. Best at an open house that I'm having tomorrow. It really doesn't matter. We're quick to communicate.
So the website is
VestedRealEstateGroup.com.
And the Instagrams, you guys do personals, or do you want people?
Brandon Rampani, April Rampani, or Vested Realtor Group.
All right. And then phone numbers, you guys comfortable giving those out?
100%.
Do it.
I'm 858, so is she, 997-7822, and she's 774-9948.
All right. Well, you guys heard it right here. This has been a really enjoyable episode. I appreciate you guys. Next time we're going to take it up a notch, and I don't know, maybe we'll do some
hors d'oeuvres.
Some hors d'oeuvres, and I'll get a bottle of Cristal. I don't drink.
I don't either.
Okay, so then you're going to be just saucy by the end of this.
Good. I will tell you anything you want to know.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. But until then, you guys have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time on Elite Zone, and I appreciate you guys. Definitely like, share, comment. Tell us what you did. Tell us how impeccably dressed this gentleman is here. It's all well and good, and we'll see you guys soon.